Okay, hi again. This is back to back, like within 1 hour, second presentation in the same room. Cool. Less information security heavy topic, really, in behalf of LAT Telecom. Why I'm talking about secure WAN in here, that's a good question. We are in information security conference, so you normally get like very heavy discussions about codes and vulnerabilities and applications and different tools. Secure WAN connectivity, it kind of belongs there because that's the transportation, how you get your information from one place to another. So from place A to place B. Nowadays, this has transformed quite a bit. So if I look into this corporate view, every company is using cloud software. How many? That varies. In some research, it said that corporations have average of 62 SaaS applications. It might be true for some it's more, for some it's less. But a lot of applications are in the cloud, and we leverage cloud a lot. Some companies are also operating in a mode that they don't have any own infrastructure, so to say, but everything is built in the cloud. If you start company this like today, you're probably not going to buy your own data center. You're probably going to do everything in the cloud, and you're going to leverage as much as possible cloud services. If we think about WAN connectivity, for the last 20 years, it's been more or less MPLS. You can buy cheap MPLS connections from A to B, and it's like extension of your corporate network. That has been pretty much the story for a lot of years. And I'm coming from Finland. In Finland, MPLS is a lot cheaper than anything else. So it doesn't make any sense to really start building any other options if you have two locations that are kind of enabled with MPLS. But that's not true when you go to cloud. You cannot have MPLS connection to cloud. If you use Office 365, you can't prioritize that traffic into cloud, and that will change the game. Secure WAN, why there is a secure SD-WAN. So secure software-defined wide area network connectivity. The point there is that we add security layer into that connectivity. So when you connect your services into cloud services, you want to have something in there that kind of guarantees that you get the thing working. So if we look at today's WAN connectivity, it's pretty much MPLS. If you have a branch office and you have your main office or data center somewhere, you have MPLS connectivity. And this is true today for most of the customers that are in this problem. If you are an old company that has existed for a long time, this is also very, well, cheap solution. It's existing, it's enabled, it's something that you already had for a long time. Changing from that is always the hard part. You know, change is always so much kind of taken in a wrong way. So if you want to do kind of branching of traffic, you don't necessarily have any visibility in the traffic. If you have an old network, you don't have any application awareness in the network, so you don't have any software-defined networking enabled environment, you're pretty much blind what is passing through this whole process. You probably trust to kind of legacy solutions in a sense. So why SD-WAN? When we go to digital transformation, SD-WAN is, well, it's rebranded ITSEC. So it's rebranded site-to-site VPN connectivity if we talk in the real terms. As a techie, I was first at, oh, so you rebranded IPsec connectivity. What are you talking about? Come on. The idea there is that you can have multiple different paths that you can't even build with MPLS, or it would be too expensive, or if you have very dynamic environment when you need to have connectivity today, tomorrow, and day after, but not after that. It doesn't make sense to buy MPLS for that kind of connectivity. If you need to have a temporary connectivity, then it makes sense to do SD-WAN. Plus, SD-WAN is built with firewalls. Every FortiGate, if you have a Fortinet firewall and you have FortiGate, each and every one of those is coming with SD-WAN built in, which is really cool. I didn't know about that. I joined Fortinet 8 months ago. So I was like, okay, SD-WAN is not my thing. I've been mostly working with application security. But I'm more and more impressed by this thing. Now I can have connectivity from my home into different cloud applications prioritized to different purposes. So I can build quality of service to my internet connectivity to different applications. And it gives me possibility to leverage the fastest path to the cloud applications. I can do measurement. What is faster? If I have legacy connection and then I have some new connection like over 4G or 5G. Last week I got a letter that I have 5G enabled environment next to my home, so I can get 1 giga internet connection over 5G connectivity, which is pretty cool, except there's no devices to connect there. That's kind of like the downside I see. Operators are kind of having this thing. But I can select the fastest way to get there, and I can build security as advanced as I see fitting. So if I want to decrypt TLS traffic that is going to cloud, I can do it in the firewall, and it won't hit the performance, really. So what are those options? 4 options that you can do when you select how you're going to do this SD-WAN implementation. You can build the SD-WAN according to the embedded solution. So if there's like stateful firewall with SD-WAN capability, it's not really good. If we look at the SD-WAN plus, then there's firewall. So you have multiple different point solutions in there. It's really hard to really maintain the configuration as efficient as you might have it or want it. And then, of course, doing the firewalling and security somewhere in the network, it might be also kind of tricky. If you trust to third parties, it doesn't make always so much sense. But if you do combination with next generation firewall, so you basically do in that device that has the most advanced latest features, in a sense, to analyze network traffic. I'm never saying that firewall is something that everybody should have, because there are cases that you don't need to have a firewall. But in case when you have your site firewalls and you want to take most out of it, if it's really cool next generation firewall, why not use it with all the features? Like, you know, if you have the latest firewall that has all the latest features, how many are turning all of them on? Almost nobody, because it's like we don't know what happens. So if you're that kind of person that you really turn them on and then take most out of it, you can also leverage that in SD-WAN. But if you want to do it the traditional way, you can do it the traditional way. That's up to you. But yeah, next generation firewalls are giving a nice step into that. We have been doing this for a few years, so we were never meant to be a big player in SD-WAN market by any means. So this year it's like full-blown solution, so we can see what is passing through the SD-WAN, we can control the traffic, we can control the applications, and recognize threat vectors, analyze the traffic behavior. So there's a lot of cool advanced security stuff in a traditional network security way. Also, we can leverage, so we can leverage different features of the next generation firewall. For example, SSL inspection. This year we did NSS labs, and in our case it means that it will hit 17% to performance of firewall if we decrypt the traffic. How much of internet traffic is encrypted today? What do you think? More than 50? So more than 80? Over 90? Yeah, depends. This is like, depends where you measure it. If I measure it from average corporation in Finland, it's 80% of all internet traffic is encrypted by TLS, 1.1 or 1.2. Then when I come here to Baltics, it varies. For example, in Latvia, it's a lot less than, for example, in Estonia. But then again, Lithuania has more. So it's also depending by country. But if you really want to see what happens in the traffic, if you don't decrypt the TLS, you don't know what's going through. So there might be a lot of malicious stuff. If you don't want to decrypt, you can still do IP reputation. You can do application control if you decrypt SSL or you have unencrypted traffic. URL filtering, definitely. IPSEC inspection if you are the terminating party. And then, of course, or if you're a man in the middle in that, and then IPS, and anti-bot, of course. So you can pick and choose what are those next-generation firewall features that you want to build into the solution, right? In SD-WAN test, why I'm talking about this, this is the future of MPLS. So if you have used MPLS, in the near future, you will face a situation where your operator is coming and approaching you and telling that we are replacing these old boxes with SD-WAN. We did really good in this one, and this was really surprising for me as well as a company employee. I'm not really the firewall guy, like said before, so this is really, really good result. And it's really hard market. It's not niche. It's a market that has a lot of major players, and we weren't recognized as one before NSS Labs. So we got the best performance and best security in that. Oh yeah. By the way, NSS Labs were thinking that their old chart was so easy to read, so they decided to go into this circular format that nobody can really read. But if it's dark green and it's large piece of the pie, it's good. If it's small and it's red, it's not good. you can decide it from that. So what do we do in a FortiGate? We have FortiOS. And FortiOS is a firewall software. It's a firewall operating system that is about 40 megabytes by the size of it. So it's not big, but it has tons and tons of features. What it enables for SD-WAN, it enables quality of service, its routing, traffic shaping, traffic engineering, application detection, and all those cool next-generation firewall features. Then there's the transport independency, so you can select whichever media you have to connect to the next place. It doesn't matter. SD-WAN doesn't care what the next media is as far as there's IP connectivity, so that's there. And then there's management and analytics. So if you want to do pure play SD-WAN, you can do it zero touch, meaning that you don't really need to do anything else but send the boxes and then boom, it's up and running once you put power on, connect the cables. So deployment can be super, super easy, but then there's central management that you see what happens in the whole thing. What happens in SD-WAN currently in our case, application awareness is best in the market according to NSS Labs. If you trust NSS Labs, cool. I don't have any other reference into this thing. So we recognize over 3,000 applications. So per application, we can make rules which application is passing through which path to the destination. We can select dynamically the link that is best for the application in different use cases by measurement. It doesn't really matter which media we are using. And then monitoring is made really simple. It's simple in configuration, it's simple graphical monitoring for the whole thing. You can do it centrally or per device. And then there's the certified security. ISCA, NSS Labs, Gartner, everybody have recognized us as a major security player, so the firewall is not half bad either. Well, you can read the NSS Labs, that will tell you more. They do actual testing, it's not just imagination like Gartner is nowadays. It's like fantasy writing sometimes. So if you try to read it, my personal opinion, not Fortinet or Lat Telecom opinion by any means. So the application support, this is important because we need to recognize applications and applications inside applications. So less than an hour ago, I was talking about web applications. They have applications inside applications there. Those have to be recognized, and then common applications and less common applications. So this is very important if you really want to do pure play SD-WAN in a hard sense. Combination or configuration, how you do it, anyone can do it without reading manual. If you have ever configured any network device, you can pretty much figure it out without a manual. Every SD-WAN configuration that I have done so far is without manual. And somehow it's successful, so it tells. If I can do it, you can do it, believe me. I'm not the best configuration person to firewall, and I was able to do it. So we can pick and choose which applications we want to recognize, and then we can build policies for them. Policies pretty much mean which path will be taken by a different application. So if we go to our HQ data center, we can still use the MPLS, but then for everything else, we can prefer different types of internet links to different destinations. So we can define the path and application steering per link, per application. So you can be as granular as you want, or you can be just whatever. Every application goes to the fastest link and that's it. So you can be very unspecific or very specific in there. And then there's the dynamic failover that will happen if there is multiple paths. It will select the path of least resistance, so meaning the fastest path to the destination. So prioritization, SD-WAN, core things. This is the exciting part, because now you can do quality of service for applications that are going to internet. They go to the cloud. So you can define what kind of quality of service your favorite applications are getting. What do you prefer most? What do you prefer least? So if you have a case that you are in a scarce resource of internet resource in your office, you can say YouTube will get least amount of traffic and streaming applications are not cool. But your real-time communication solutions like Skype for Business or Teams or WebEx or GoToMeeting, whatever you're using, it's always in top priority. I'm in a situation where I have tested this with my phone. Finnish operator Elisa enabled this Wi-Fi calling. So now when I go home and my phone connects to my home Wi-Fi, it will reroute my phone calls through Wi-Fi to Elisa core network. So when I'm here, if I connect the local Wi-Fi, which I'm not doing because it's information security conference, by the way, there's normally a lot of malicious looking hotspots that are not so legit here. So, but if I was doing it, it will connect directly to Finland and I can do local calls, like locally priced calls from anywhere in the world when I have Wi-Fi priority. And I tested, can this recognize it? And surprise, surprise, it was able to detect this technology that you have Wi-Fi calling. So I was able to say that enable this Wi-Fi voice over IP traffic dynamically, and it was able to do this. So there are like real use cases for this one. And of course, are you allowing some of the applications or not? You can leverage the firewall to decide that. So how this is done, we can say what are the application level requirements. What do we expect as an SLA for different applications? Then we need to decide how we measure it. The last one, TWAMP, is two-way application measurement protocol. So it's two-way delay measurements, how well the connection is working. This is being used in mobile networks, for example. UDP, TCP, Echo, HTTP ping, it's pretty much selecting how we measure the SLA, how we decide what's the latency, what's the jitter, what's the packet loss. That has to be measured there. And then say what is the check interval, what is the failure criteria, and what is the success criteria in this case. So what's the best case and what's the worst case? That's pretty much it. Configuration-wise, defining SLA, you can say which physical links are included into this bundle, which kind of measured SLA you are doing, and what are the quality criteria. You can use latency, jitter, packet loss, or you can do your custom profile for it. Very simple. 3 configurations that you need to do. You need to define what is your SLA requirement. Then you need to define your strategy. So how you measure and which are the links that you do there. So meaning that what is the outgoing interfaces in this bundle, minimum quality SLA, these interfaces, and then the SLA target measurement, and then define that SLA target measurement function. Okay, cool. So you can select always the best path, the destination. Going back here, the outgoing interfaces and this definition, it's very, very straightforward if you have ever configured anything like this. Okay, there's a jitter in the connectivity. So central management, if you do SD-WAN, you have to control it like MPLS network. So you need to understand how the connections are doing. Are they doing well? Are they doing bad? If they are doing good, why they are doing good? If they are doing bad, why they are doing bad? That's why in FortiManager, in central management, it will draw this kind of picture. What are the connections, different sites, and then what's the last measurement to different services that you have defined there. This is very, very straightforward. And you can define new measurements and new connections and new policies centrally from one place. Okay, that wasn't the one that I wanted to use. Almost last but not least, the cool part here is what we have done already to multiple customers locally and globally is zero touch. We can send boxes to customer once they hook them in without kind of any knowledge about firewalls or networking equipment. We can send them diagram, connect this cable there and that cable there, and put power on. Boom, you're ready to go. Zero-touch deployment, it either works using FortiCloud, our cloud service. So once there's a FortiGate that has been sold to one location, we can ship it directly there. Once the box connects to the internet, it will download configuration either from the FortiCloud or FortiManager, or it will get configuration from cloud, and then it will get information which FortiManager will manage this box. You can do full cloud management, or you can do local management for it. So this is still developing. We reinvent this almost every release of FortiOS, more or less, what you can do with this. We have tried to do this as easy as possible. We have a cool application called FortiExplorer. So every box that we send to customer is coming with QR code, and you can scan it with your phone with the FortiExplorer, and it will do registration to your cloud environment and support contract automatically, which is cool. But yeah, it's something different. So if you don't know anything about it, you can still send it to some, like in a previous case, we send it to what is a pet store. Pet store employees did the installation and deployment, not the operator people, not integrator people, not educated people for kind of security devices or network devices. It was just take the box out, put cables in, and it was there. And it was working. They came with Wi-Fi access points also. So case studies, the latest one that was huge, this is from Netherlands. It's like a grocery shop that has 30% market share of Netherlands market. SuperUni, they have currently 1,500 branches and 10 different data centers. Plus they have subcontractors that need connectivity also to SuperUni environment. They deployed the whole SD-WAN with 1,500 branches with double equipment almost in every branch. So that's a lot of connections. It works. They are super happy with the solution at the moment. It wasn't the only thing. They wanted to have this. They wanted to have like a separation of duties, and they had like this special security requirements in there. Why this is remarkable feature really is it's part of the security fabric. So when you have your firewalls and when you have other security solutions in place, SD-WAN is like one minuscule piece of a bigger puzzle. So if you build your connections into secure SD-WAN kind of connectivity solution, you can also leverage the other capabilities. So if you have traffic passing through this one, you can send samples to Sandbox, you can leverage possible client protection solutions, and all that happens almost automatically. I mean almost is that you need to approve authorization between different Fortinet products to do it, but they will search for each other. Has anyone ever seen this Forti security fabric thing before? Yeah, a few of you have. The whole idea is that there's REST API integration. So when you have more than one Fortinet product in the same environment, they will try to pair up. So if you have two firewalls, they will try to connect to each other and exchange information. If you have firewall and email service, or firewall and a WAF, or firewall and Sandbox, they will automatically try to pair up and start exchanging information. It's made that way that you don't need to spend hours and hours and hours to figure out how the REST API is working and how you should do API calls. It is automatically there. You just define where the service is if you want, or you can let it figure it out by itself. So, evaluation. If you want to do good firewalling, that has a proven track record and you want to do good SD-WAN, you can get those out of FortiGates. Any FortiGate, virtual machine, physical one, they always have that feature. It's a core feature of the firewall software. So that was in very, very short, but also in a sense that this is core feature of what we do. Something that I always want to remind, and as I see that we have same faces in here, but anyways, I'm going back. Okay, this is what you get when you don't have your own machine. So I want to remind as a kind of last thing, since we are in an information security conference, always consider that all the smallest pieces of your technical solution are part of a bigger plan. It's part of the people process and people and processes and policies and whatever you build into your environment. It's normally three things. It's people, process, and then technology. And technology is always coming from smaller pieces. So if you go to the idea that you just buy point solutions, there's a high likelihood that they are never going to be integrated to each other. They are never, ever going to exchange information in that sense as you would like, unless you have purpose-built solutions for that. That's why you need to think about the technology part very, very carefully, what you're doing there. In the same carefulness as you teach the people, as you plan the processes, technology takes a lot of consideration as well. Are you going to use MPLS connections or are you doing SD-WAN? Are you doing next generation firewalling or not? Do you do WAFs? Do you do sandboxing? What is your target level of security that you want to get? By the way, normally answer is, yeah, we are 100% secure. Okay, cool. Where are you living? Come on. The target, normally the mental target is to be there in 100%, but the truth is normally very hard to bear. So that's why this is important to understand. And the security fabric thing that I showed at the end of the presentation and where I'm going to end this whole thing is part of that process. We try to think differently to security. We want to do this right. And if you want to kind of think about your pieces beyond just the SD-WAN connectivity, we have tools, we have different solutions. There is also Oskar, that is the local guy that can tell more about this, of course, but this is something that we have been talking about a lot, but then there are also implementations that this is also done and this is doable, really. So it's not just a slideware in a sense, but it's hard to prove in a half an hour. So, so thank you. It's lunch break.
Thank you, Timo. Yeah, is there any questions from the audience? Anybody?
It was so comprehensive that there's. Okay, thank you.
There is a lunch break at the moment. There's also a panel discussion in the main hall, so whatever, if you're not pickish, then yeah. We will be back in this venue in 1 hour with QRadar. Other than that, the next hour is up to you. Yeah. Thank you very much for being here.